Zionism and Hindu nationalism are hand in hand. India is the biggest buyer of arms from Israel. And I think across the board, you can say the more money you have, the quieter you are on this. And it's really disgusting because the people who can change, who have the most power to change, are the most quiet. And P.S., white men are not off the hook. I mean, like in our book,
right.
we say
No, I'm just saying the physical violence tends to be more in that direction. Okay. I'm not blind. I haven't seen a lot of women shooting up, supermarkets. Okay. That's just a fact.
Totally.
But no, it's a socioeconomic thing. It's a privileged position to be in for sure. And it also is that of somebody who cannot identify with oppressed people, that cannot have any, like if you're that void of like compassion for people that are the oppressed, vulnerable people, that's a very big position of privilege. That means you have never experienced something that makes that relatable to you. And that's horrifying to me. That I feel like my people in many ways have become those people, and because I come from working class people that fled Russia from their businesses being set on fire at the turn of the century, the last century. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, this is crazy to me.
Yeah. No, and same with my people. Partition happened in 1947. Most people don't know about partition. Millions of South Asians were murdered and died during partition, and Israel was created the following year, British behind both. But we only learn about one Holocaust in this country, right? And that was also a Holocaust. There's lots of genocides. And so, I think it's a little worse than that, Jen. It's not that people a lot of people who are quiet haven't experienced it. I think the closer you cozy up to white power, the quieter you get. So plenty of quiet Indians in this country are like, you know what, we went through that, and I'm good. I'm gonna stay silent. I met a dude who's Lebanese American yesterday, and he, came here to escape death and destruction in Lebanon. And I was like, are you on social media? And he was like, I don't say anything out loud. I just do my job. And so in the end, to me, the most privileged person in the world, the most powerful person in the world is a white American right now. Like there's nobody more powerful and privileged. And if you are a white American in this country, I don't care if you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, white American in this country, and you're quiet, F you. I don't know if you're allowed to curse on this show, but
by all means. I've been demonetized for worse things. I had a telethon situation, a live stream for Julian Assange. So we've been deplatformed a few times here.
I get the sense that this is going to be a point of no return, though, for a lot of people, at least in terms of where Israel stands. There is no coming back from this.
No.
There is a legitimate genocide that's being perpetrated right now. Kudos to Joe Rogan. He said it on his show yesterday. 10+ million people are now going to hear it. You cannot cause mass famine and perpetual death on hundreds of thousands of people and think that you're just going to be able to skate and nothing's going to happen to you. I mean, I'm looking at Netanyahu as becoming, Mussolini, basically.
If only he were the only problem. Like if only that would solve the problem. That's not the problem.
Now, how do you see it unfolding? Because obviously it's going to get worse before it gets better. But do you feel that we will cross a point where the tide will turn in the right direction? Will there be enough momentum in this country in particular where people will eventually say, yeah, no, we've had enough of this?
So many things that you just said that I want to touch on. Number one, we're living in the upside down when all three of us can agree. Kudos to Joe Rogan.
Right? Oh, yes.
And so,
yeah. No, we're in the bizarro world. Let's just go with that. Oh, yeah.
Rogan's one of those very interesting people that it all depends on who the guest is on his podcast.
Oh, yeah. It's just
if the right guest is there, they're usually able to pry him to say something that actually is
I don't know, though. His just open and notorious anti-blackness kind of makes him a non-starter for me. Sure. But I'm glad that he said what he said. He's 6 months in. Thank you. 6 months in, we've got Nancy Pelosi running for the hills. AOC, who's now realizing her numbers are tanking, wouldn't say genocide at the movie theater a couple weeks ago. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's number one. Mussolini is too. Who cares? I agree with you, Jen, in terms of if Netanyahu was the only problem. So the way that this works, and we talk about this in our book and in our movie Deconstructing Karen. If you have not seen Deconstructing Karen, watch Deconstructing Karen.
Where is that?
It's everywhere. It's on iTunes. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on Tubi. It's all over the place.
Okay.
But we love to say it's Trump. Trump is the bad guy, right? Republicans are the bad people. People who live in the South are bad. It's Netanyahu who is bad. It was Hitler who is bad. It's actually we're actually living through the good German scenario, right? It's not just Biden, it's the whole society. Like, our American media is literally a propaganda arm. Hollywood is a propaganda arm of the American government. And people are like, well, why are they running Joe Biden? Who else are they going to run? Like, in both
Kamala.
parties,
Go Kamala.
in both parties, genocide has been a silent platform, a very foundational part of the platform. So they're kind of like, fuck. Like, what else do we have? It's always been genocide. It's all like, we don't have another candidate, because all of our candidates, who would we, the only two people in our federal government that are worthy of running for president are Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush. And the Democratic Party has done everything in their power to make sure those two get, like, put hits on their backs, right?
I know.
So Netanyahu, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, every freaking congressional leader will be seen as Hitler. And every head of the New York Times, Washington Post, like, let's stop saying that the media is complicit. The media is active. CNN, ABC News, all of the People Magazine, USA Today, all of them. It's not complicit, it's active. All war criminals. That's that. Where do we go from here? It's one of two things. Bisan said this the other day. If Gaza is finished, the world is finished. It's as simple as that. So how do you look at the worst? This is the worst. And people say Trump is worse. Tell me what is worse than starving babies to death. Tell me what is worse than gang raping pregnant women, forcing their family to watch, propping their eyelids open, murdering her, and then running a tank over her. What is worse? If someone could tell me what's worse, I'd like to know. We also know they've been testing out weapons in Gaza for a long time to use in other places. I just did a podcast with Janan Matari. I don't know, everyone should follow Janan Matari. And she said, like, look, we're seeing the weapons now in the US, the skunk chemicals that were deployed on students at Columbia. Let's talk about that. This is an Ivy League school.
Yep.
You know, Israeli terrorists deployed skunk on Ivy League students. What did Columbia University do? They literally penalized those students, sicked the NYPD, and NYPD has been brutalizing pro-Palestinian protesters at Columbia. So there is nowhere to go. It's one of two things is going to happen. Either we all get free. Either you free Palestine and we free the world. It is the end of imperialism. It is the end of colonialism. It is actually the beginning of the end of white supremacy. Yes, it is the beginning of the end of white supremacy, or humanity is finished. There's nowhere, it's done. And so that's what we're seeing right now. It's literally, and that's why they're clawing because they're holding on for dear life, because what do these fuckers have if not white supremacy, death, and destruction? That is it.